welcome to the Scene Weekly podcast, where we harken back to our college debate days and pick two movies with the same theme to stare deeply at screens and question whether or not the director has ever yelled cut yet. This week's episode is focused on single shot movies with Russian Ark sizzling in the pan with boiling point. Come join Jonathan and Steven for another week of desirably less plot chatter and hopefully more film banter. We are Scene Weekly, and welcome to our world.
We are in it to win it here, Jonathan. We've got this. We got these two movies that have very, very little minimal editing involved. Just like our podcast, we don't do much editing here.
One stop shop. Yeah, single
That's
shots.
it.
What are your
It's
thoughts?
It's a very niche kind of topic we're talking about here.
It's kind of like a pun on a pun, like just very 3 layers deep. I feel like the single shot movies could really be expounded upon, to be fair. I feel like a lot of like a more, not like in a Birdman way, but actual single shots. And I'm not saying in like a play, because it does have a feeling of a play, right?
Right.
But the actual movie itself. And I think at the same time, where I was thinking about both of these movies, it's interesting. You take a step back and you kind of have to give them props.
Oh, huge props.
Yeah, for the effort. And it's never going to be like a 5-star or 5 glasses review. And I don't want to say never. It clearly isn't for me. But it's also not going to be like a 1-star or a 1 glasses because of the effort. Like it's
the A for effort. You got to give a little bit more for just the audacity.
Yeah.
To try this, because there's so many things that can just go wrong at any minute, especially like granted, if something happens in the first 10, 20 minutes, like, okay, let's redo this. But man, if we're like in the ballroom scene and somebody just like slips and falls,
and the audacity,
hate to be that guy.
I mean this in a good way, but the absolute audacity. Alexander Sokurov, the director of Russian Ark, had this idea, and they're like, you can have the Hermitage for 2 days to close down the whole like museum, basically, to film this. And they're like, nope, I just need 1 day. And I was like, I think you might need to reconsider your statement here. That's what I was thinking, and clearly it worked on the 4th take. But the audacity of like caricatures of humans, including an orchestra, and like it's outrageous on how many things actually could have gone wrong, and probably did, and we didn't really like truly notice, because like things are going to go wrong, they're not going to be perfect. But like on both, I don't know, somebody dropping a pan and boiling point, or doing whatever it might be, just tripping and falling. It's interesting. And like, it's got to be so nerve-wracking for people to be on set and be like, wow, everything is contingent upon this one single moment. It's got to be very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's stressful, and it's kind of punk rock. Like we're gonna make these movies and do something that's just like you said, the audacity behind it. It's very the antithesis of what you would think would be good in a film. And they actually, these two films, they have the pairing of a single shot film, but they're completely different in all respects.
Yeah,
to be clear.
one thing that they do carry, and I just think it's going to carry over in pretty much all single shot films, is the acting can never be too outlandish, or like where you're trying something new. So you have this like this weird feeling of like the shot selection, there's no editing, and the even keel of the acting. It's nothing too crazy, but nothing like terrible. It's just like this even that medium range effort, if you will, because you can't go too crazy, because if you go too crazy, maybe the whole movie just like is blown to bits.
It just falls apart.
Yeah. So I found that strangely like a kind of like a warm embrace, but somewhat of an awkward one at first to get used to. It's like, oh, this is a bit strange. Like it's not like I don't want to say it wasn't well acted. It's just it's like a whole new genre, really.
Yeah, I kind of
Like
want,
it's
like you said, I want more of
yeah.
these films because it makes the audience. You're a little bit more invested in what's happening on screen. Like you're kind of like you have this almost anxiety of like, what could go wrong here? There's something that could go wrong. Um,
Yes. I that's a better way to put it. The anxiety of like I don't know. I'm even thinking about it now. It's giving me anxiety of just the wardrobes that these people had, and like the amount of like going upstairs, and there's like lavish trails and stuff. Like it could have taken out like 10 people at once. Like walking in the snow, for example. I'm just like, this is too much. It's not for me to be a director to choose a film of this nature. And even with Boiling Point, it's like, God damn, dude. Like, I don't know. It's nerve wracking. I can't imagine being on set. I'd like to see the interviews post after this.
it's got to be wild. I did some research because like this is a very niche, like I said, film genre of the one shot take, and there's not that many. Like, I mean, you have the kind of obvious that are trying to look like a one shot take, like the Birdmans in the 1917s that are they have those like little stitches that the trickery that they do, so you can't really consider that part of this. But you have like I looked up, the longest quote unquote film of a one shot take, and it was like 10 hours and 5 minutes of paint drying.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not really a film. Behind me here, this is another one shot take film that you can clearly see. This is of the Empire State Building. It's called Empire by Andy Warhol, and I think we're on hour 2 of it right now. So just for those people watching this video, they can kind of see that in the background. But yeah, you have Russian Ark, 96 minutes, and then Boiling Point, which is 94 minutes. And there's another film called Victoria that I haven't seen from 2015 that's 140. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I don't see how. First of all, like a modern art exhibit, I don't even know what to call it, piece, whatever it might be. Like I don't consider those actual movies. Although you can make a justification that it's a movie, but whatever. Fuck you, people. And I I see these as proper movies. And to be honest with you, in their own right, are they the best movies in the world? No, neither. But to be fair, why don't we get into Russian Art? Because I want to talk about it a little bit. Although like
Okay.
not, I'm gonna sound like the dumbest human being again.
We do that a lot here.
Yeah, just no idea what I'm talking about. Russian Ark runtime. You said 96 minutes. I have a 99. Maybe I've written that down wrong, or somebody had it wrong. Alexander
I think it's the
Sokurov.
continuous take is 96 minutes, but you have like
Oh,
a little
got
bit
it.
of the intro,
Sure,
whatever,
sure,
the
sure.
complete
Yeah,
film.
whatever it is. 2002. It's a not rated movie. I don't know what to call this genre. It said it was like a documentary or a mystery, but neither of those. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a single shot genre of historical replication. I don't know. Who knows? 89% of Rotten Tomatoes, 2.5 million budget, the 8.5 million in the box office. And I first learned of Russian Ark. I don't know how. I've been following various X accounts with movies. Pretty much the only thing I follow. Movies, soccer, and MMA. And pretty much anything outside of that. I feel like with this political climate, I've been bombarded with like left and right stuff. And I'm like, how do I get rid of all of this and just stick to
Yeah,
my
fix the algorithm
fix
where
the first, just fix the, go back to the first three. Like I exited political commentary when like 2006 when I graduated with a master's in sociology to make myself less depressed. But anyway, um, what do you think of the beginning? I should go back. I found this movie I randomly through I think an X account maybe 6-7 years ago, and I watched it and I was like, I almost want this for a for you, but I was like, I don't know what just happened. And so like your
yeah.
mention of this being like a Sleep No More separately, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much how I felt. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I still don't know what's going on. And I did look it up slightly, and I was like, this is too much for me. It was just like in this moment, I have like so much work happening. I have so much many other things going on, going to a funeral on like over the weekend, and I was like, there's 300 years plus of historical Russian artifacts that are just like dropped into this goddamn movie, and you're expecting me to decipher this over a 96, 99 minute movie. And I almost got angry like when I was like putting stuff together with this. I was like, fuck this movie, man. Like this movie sucks. Like, why are you gonna do this to me? And then I was like, that's just what a dumb person would say because you don't understand any history around Russia. But how did you
Yeah.
feel when you first started watching?
Again, so this could have been a For You movie because I had never heard of it or known about it. And I tried not to look up too much going into it. And I really didn't, but I was excited because I kind of heard something about like it was kind of like mystery, fantasy, dreamlike kind of thing. I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Um, and it was just, I mean, what I thought was like, if I was like in a Russian history class in high school and we had a substitute teacher, they would put this on as like their school day, their lesson day, and I would be bored by it.
yeah,
But watching it now with like just I don't know anything about Russian history to be honest, but I did actually enjoy the movie in this setting. Does that make sense? Like
yeah, totally.
as the kids would say, I vibed with it. You know,
Yeah,
I put it on, and I was just trying to figure out what the hell was going on. But what I appreciated was how the cinematographer and the director could composite these scenes. And granted, you're in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, and it's a beautiful, beautiful building. But the way that they constructed it and the way that they moved the characters in and out and kind of had this like you're basically the ghost, the narrator. That's
yeah.
the viewpoint that you see it from, and it was very just dreamlike and beautiful in that sense.
Yeah, and to go to the synopsis, which you kind of like alluded to, a 19th century French aristocrat, notorious for his scathing memoirs of life in Russia, travels through the Russian State Hermitage Museum and encounters historical figures from the last 200 plus years. This doesn't really give you any guidance to what the movie is. So you just get dropped in, like literally, you just get dropped in. It's kind of like you open your eyes. It's like, huh, what is this place? Like this is the narrator speaking. Like, what is this place? Am I speaking Russian? I didn't know Russian before this, which is I don't know. It's just so funny to me, and interacting, seem like trying to interact with people, and he notices that he can't be noticed, opposed to few people throughout the film itself. Um, I don't really know what this is meant to be, though. Is it meant to be encapsulate like a time capsule of Russian history in this 95-minute period that where you could just put it on for somebody and they'd learn, but you don't really learn. You know what I mean?
No, you don't
Learning.
learn.
I didn't learn
You
a
kind of
single
have to know
thing.
going in. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know any of the SARS of Russia and the history of any of that. But what I'm just thinking about now is like this was 2002, and I feel like this is going to be like this is a precursor of what movies might be in the near future with like the Oculus Rift. Like you just put on this headset and you're like transported into this Russian museum, and you're just kind of walking around and you're in the movie, and that's what it's going
That's
to
true.
be.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I hope films are like that to some extent. I wouldn't say I hope that all of them are like a historical lesson that I need to come with like literally a PhD in Russian literature, PhD in Russian art, and like whatever else is needed. But I will say, I'm just so shocked. I want to see all the mistakes that they made. It's undeniably hard to get this right. Like it is it's a Herculean task, and they tried on three separate occasions. And my one of my points was like, how long does the battery last on whatever they have in the back end? And that it actually went wrong three times. Like
Yeah.
just wasn't getting it right. And on their last try, which they're halfway through the day, on their last try with literally half a battery left over, they were able to shoot this movie. which I found. I mean, I guess they prepared well, but I just with the music and with the what everyone is just wearing and the movements, I just don't see how this got done. And like, was it storyboard? Like, I just don't see how it got done. It just seems so
It's an
impossible.
incredible feat. I did find this one little nugget kind of interesting, that one of the crew members had the duty of holding the cinematographer's belt to make sure he didn't stumble. Like that was his job. He's just back there, like, okay, I got you, man. I'm the fail safe. You cannot fall.
That makes sense,
Um,
actually. Good job on him. I didn't see him
yeah,
or the
and then apparently
cinematographer.
near the end, the cinematographer was afraid that he was going to collapse from exhaustion. Like he almost did.
That's a long time to be focusing entirely upon that type of job for like an hour and a half, where you're entirely focused on. That's got to be tough. It's got to be really tough. And there's what 4,500 people were on this movie.
It's insane,
So
yeah.
like,
And you have orchestras, you have ballrooms, you have it's
so
going inside, outside. That's the toughest thing too. Like
yeah,
when you're setting up a shot, you're setting up the lighting for the room that you're in, or outside, or whatever like that. So like to get the composition right and the lighting right in all these different rooms, and going upstairs into dark alleys and things like that, it kind of blows your mind
yeah,
when you know how like filmmaking works and how they did this and they executed it astonishingly.
yeah. My favorite part, and I don't. To be fair, I don't have a whole lot to say about the film because there's
Well, the plot is not
yeah,
really there. I mean,
there's nothing to say. But one of my favorite parts was the ending. And anytime that they like the beginning as well, and there's a middle section that they go in on the snow, and the transition from the inside world to the outside, was it felt like the Revenant, where it was all shot without any artificial lighting. It had that same
mhm.
type of feel in the snow, and it just looked so good. And I was like, how does this look so good? Like, I'm just I don't know. It's so funny. Like, you think you're a photographer. Like, I take lots and lots of pictures, but like, some of them end up being all right. And this guy just randomly creates a 90-minute movie and is able to transition from the inside to the outside world and looks still fucking good, like really good. I'm a little
Yeah.
jealous, a little jealous. Um, I was trying to figure this out. Like, you, Sleep No More. I was like questioning and questioning, and then I was like, I give up because I don't think any of my thoughts made sense to even me. And I was like, is this Dante's Inferno? Is he in hell? Is he talking to different versions of himself throughout his life and having the insecurities speak out loud? And I was just like, I give up. And I still don't have answers. I looked up answers, and it's basically just a historical documentary of the history of Russia. And I was like, that's pretty simple. I don't know anything in the backstory, nor do I guess I ever have the interest or time to do so. But I was trying to, I was trying to guess.
Yeah. That's my Alexa. There's not going to be an edit in this podcast, by the way.
Oh, that's okay because it's a single shot. But I
That's
found that,
right.
yeah, we're doing things live.
We're doing it
Um,
live. We're not going to cut. It's going to be flaws and all. We're gonna
there's
make it through.
there's two moments in the actual film itself that besides what I've already said, that I found funny. Maybe it was just funnier in the delivery of a single shot movie where the guy, the what is he called, like a pilgrim or whatever he is, the guy goes behind the
The-
door, and then the child, like the kid, is poking his head in slowly,
yeah.
and then they blow raspberries at each other, and I was like, what's happening? But I was laughing out loud because I was like, in the moment of like, if somebody accidentally starts laughing out, like, you could laugh in that moment, it would just, maybe it would ruin the film. And then secondly, when the narrator is discussing in one, I can't remember the room, but basically they're discussing art and overarching idea of Europe and their mistakes, and Russia becoming kind of like Europe, and it's like, well, you can adopt some of their art and good things, but why also borrow their mistakes too? And I was like, that's actually a really good line. I like that.
Yeah. So the
Um,
pilgrim that you're referring to is called the European, and that's why he doesn't know that. He's like, why am I speaking Russian? But he's a Frenchman, and he's based off of this guy named Mar- Marquis de Custine, and he was highly critical of Russia. He traveled to the Russian Empire, and he basically was a person that just thought Russia was trying to be Europe, but could never be, just with the way that they govern their people and things like that. And I guess putting him in as like this lead in the movie, and at the end he wants to stay in 1917 Russia, right before the collapse of into World War One. It shows kind of like a fictionalized history of like this person actually admiring Russia and saying, okay, I appreciate all the history, like you've changed my mind, and into that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like a 3D version of, like I don't know if you have looked up like virtual tours of homes on Zillow or something like that.
Yeah, I've done it. I mean, I don't have the purchasing power to buy any of these homes, but
Yeah, but it's like
you know,
that. This is what this movie basically is. You went to the Hermitage Museum, and then if you add in the human beings from the particular moment of time, like
yeah,
like who would be in existence, and you're able to like move around. That's pretty much what this movie would be, which is pretty fucking cool if you think about it, though.
yeah.
I just thought it's
I feel like
astounding.
more museums should hire filmmakers to show off their lavish rooms and
You
things
mean like
like
the
that.
night
Like,
at the museum? I feel like there's
yeah,
a variety. Like for example, Nicolas Cage in the
a
Louvre.
national treasure.
I mean,
Is that what you're talking about?
there's quite a good
At least
many.
those had plots.
There's quite a good many that museums that have shown up on film before, Steven.
Do you like to go to museums, Jonathan? Are you a museum head?
Am I a museum head? No, I'm not a museum head, but I did have a annual membership to the Museum of Natural History for once a
Okay.
year, family, and we went like 6 times, maybe. But no, I've been to all the museums in New York City. I shouldn't say all. Been to all the main ones
Okay. Yeah.
multiple times. But no, I'm not a museum head. I'm not somebody that. Basically, you're asking me, are you smart or are you dumb, boy? And the answer is, I'm dumb, boy.
I just go to museums if I can watch them from my couch.
That's pretty much accurate. But yeah, not a lot to say. I like the idea of single shot movies. I think if all movies were single shot, I probably would like movies less. And that's a weird thing to say, but it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I like Belgian chocolate cake, but if I had to eat that every meal, I probably wouldn't like it as much. You know?
Well, I mean, that's one thing to say, but that's an extreme version. I would say if there's a better rationale, something that's not as extreme of a statement, like, I really like action adventure movies, and if I had to watch them every single time, yeah, I probably wouldn't like movies as much, but I would still like it significantly more than single shot movies, if that makes sense. And also, you need to get your vitamins if you're just going to be eating cake all day. That doesn't seem like a good way to. Seems like a good way to go
You
to the
put
grave.
you put the vitamins in the cake, and you just it's like it hides them.
So boiling point. Why don't we transition immediately already? Because I don't have much to say left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Boiling Point, man. This is a movie that I randomly found a few years ago, kind of recently after it came out on streaming. And I remember I texted you. This was like before the podcast and everything like that. And like we shared movies occasionally, but this was one that I was like really kind of excited about. I was like, you need to see this movie, and I was just I was enamored by it. And this was we had our culinary episode, and this was like high on the list of culinary, but I didn't pick it. I kind of wanted to hold it back for this theme. Um, and yeah, this hit all the spots because I work in a kitchen and I know the high stresses of it. But to get to the plot of the movie or the points, it's a 2021 movie. The tagline for this film is "There is no room for mistakes." And that's for both the film and for what's going on in the film. Director is Philip Barantini, and it stars Stephen Graham and Vinette Robinson. 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, filmed in one continuous take. Had 4 days to shoot this film, and they wanted to do 8 takes of it to get the best one. But they could only do 2 days and 4 takes because COVID shut them down because they were filming in March of 2020.
Oh wow.
And it was just, yeah, they just had to shut it down. It was like, boom, done. And the third take was the one that they used. So third time's a charm.
It's very
But yeah,
similar to a comedy show where they do like 4, 8 takes and then they take the best.
the best one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice.
So yeah, Boiling Point. Head chef Andy Jones faces a high-stress night at his London restaurant. Already frazzled, Andy arrives to an intense atmosphere as his team scrambles to prepare for service. Unexpected challenges, including a health inspection, a VIP party, and a renowned food critic pile on, testing his control and the staff's resilience. The restaurant's open kitchen exposes every misstep, adding to the mounting tension as pressures rise. Andy and his team struggle to hold it together, teetering on the edge of collapse. So yeah, this is a boiler room kitchen nightmare, to be honest, and pretty intense.
Very intense. You know, it was interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and say this. When you told me the first time to watch it, I watched 30 minutes and I thought it was terrible.
Interesting.
And then I put it on, started over again, and I didn't think it was terrible.
Huh.
And I was like, that's weird. I shouldn't say it was terrible. I just was disinterested. And I think it was kind of less, it was more of, is this movie interesting to me? I'm not quantifying anything. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really interested. I don't really want to watch this. Now we're doing it from a perspective of giving it props or whatever, evaluating it. And
We got to talk about it. Yeah.
This is difficult. Like especially a kitchen. It's like super hard to like get this shot. So it made me respect it more, I would say, than the first time I went to watch it, which is interesting. I'd be interested to watch different movies from the perspective that we have now that I have seen before but haven't seen for this podcast. But
Yeah.
it's man, I would say there wasn't really I don't want to say that. There wasn't really acting in Russian Ark, but there was a lot of acting, of course, in this movie, which was pretty high level for the stakes at hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Stephen Graham, he was nominated for a BAFTA in this,
Wow.
which is like the Oscars of British. But yeah, he put on a phenomenal performance as this like the chef who is kind of just losing his way. He's been living out of a suitcase. He broke up with his girlfriend wife. He's missing a big swimming event for his son, and he's just working nonstop. But he's not working really well, as we can clearly see from the health inspector. Which it was very like kind of when watching this again, the health inspector kind of like uh, the dynamic between the two felt very like just the British sense of humor behind it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Andy's just falling apart. He's not keeping the logs of his temperature control check and things like that. And that's like, honestly, it's important, but it's also the boring part of any kind of chef restaurant is like logging all of your, you know, your meats and temperatures and time control and things like that. You just want to cook and you want to direct the staff in what they need to do and shuck oysters and things like that. The last thing you want to do is have to pull out this book and label everything, but you have to do it. You know, you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it.
Do you have somebody to tell you what to do and when to do it?
What do you mean?
Like a general manager to come over, like, hey, you haven't logged your stuff.
There's checks and balances, but working in the environment that I'm in, we're all pretty self-motivated to do those things because
Sure.
if it doesn't, and you know, it's your responsibility. If it's not done, you look bad. So you got to do it. And anytime a health inspector is in, it's stressful.
Yeah.
especially if it's 10 minutes before open, and you're trying to, get ready for a busy Christmas service. It's stressful. And then you have, staff washing their hands in the wrong sink, and
Yeah.
your dish person is 2 hours late, and you got the pastry chef, working on the I don't know, just different things that are happening. It's just all adding up. And then you add in like the guest element of it, and seeing them come in. And we've all dealt with these guests. Table 7, fuck table 7. Uh, like, God, man.
Awful, right? I mean, immediate, but just uh
I
do
want the
people like
most
that exist?
expensive wine on the list. Okay, you're a
Do they
douchebag.
exist? Do they exist, those people?
100% they exist.
Like
Yes.
every day?
More so on Sundays, but yes.
Is that a dig on religion?
No, no, everybody knows that Sundays are typically the worst guests that come in. And I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's like
Church.
families going out and they're all just,
Maybe they're stressed.
stress. Yeah, you just get a lot of weirdos on Sundays. I don't know. It's just everybody knows it.
Sunday, bloody Sundays. That's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
When you mean everybody, it's clearly not including me. I have a question because, like, I know that you told me that the accuracy of this is like uh, makes you irritable almost because or
It's triggering.
anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
That's why I don't watch The Bear. I don't go home. Like, people ask me like, "How have you watched The Bear?" And like, no, I work all day in a kitchen. I don't want to come home and watch people working in a kitchen. Like,
yeah.
it's not enjoyable to me.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that would be enjoyable. But I do have a question because I think you've probably maybe once or twice like tasted things at your work as a chef.
All the time. Yeah, we call it a taste plate every day at 11 a.m.
I just a joke, but um, I'm curious. Are there things that because it's part of your job, but are there things you're just like, I cannot wait to taste this, or it's like, God damn it, I have to taste this again. And I guess what would be your top repeatable thing to taste at any of the jobs you've had in the past? And what's the bottom one? One in which if you were the manager of the menu, it'd be like, whoever put this on here is getting fired. And then the inverse is like, what would be the best tasting? So best and worst.
Um, I look forward to, because we have to taste the ribs every day. We put them on the grill and make sure that they're tender enough, fall off the bone. So, a nice little half rack of ribs with barbecue sauce at 11 a.m. always kind of hits the spot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Um, and then cheese, like the worst thing to taste. I don't know, man. It's probably like some random like dressing, like a heavy vinegar or something like that. Like, I
Oh
gotta taste
yeah.
this again.
Oh,
Sometimes I don't want to taste like the creamy horseradish because it's just that very pungent horseradish taste.
I love that.
Um,
See, that would be the high end of my like wasabi peas type of thing. I'd be
yeah,
like, give
yeah,
me
you
some of
love that
that.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting because do you ever be like, God, it's the horseradish again? That eyeball, it's gonna be just fine. Do you ever do that?
There's been times where it's like stir it. Yeah, the
Yeah.
consistency looks pretty good.
Like, be well. We'll see how this works. You know, I'll have to say the every time I've heard this, and I feel like we've heard this either 2 or 3 times ago in UK based film cinema, when they say Happy Christmas. And every single time I hear it, I'm like, what is going on? How did this become a thing? And no, absolutely not. It should not be a thing. Happy Christmas. Where did this originate? I didn't look it up. Don't have the time. What happened?
I don't know, but it's weird because I feel like the word "merry" is very British. Um, I mean, in all respects, but Happy Christmas, that just sounds wrong. I'd rather say Happy Holidays than Happy Christmas.
Exactly. But I don't. I honestly just can't. It really is frustrating to me. I can't get over the fact that anybody would say Happy Christmas instead of Merry Christmas. Like you're telling some Merry Christmas. It's like the Koreans would say it like that, but like Happy Christmas. I don't even know what to think of it. What does that mean? Happy Christmas for whom? You? The person said, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like a incomplete sentence that It's just, I mean, it's just triggering in my brain.
I would have, if I was the director, I would have yelled, "Cut!" right there. We got to start over. We're not using that.
You got to start over, and you're fired. Get up.
We need a new actor.
Oh my god! But to go back to tasting and just generally your job as a chef, how how is your relationship in your restaurant or restaurants compared to the real life situation of that we have in front of us with Boiling Point? Is it comparative?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that happen every day in a restaurant. You know, we have um, certain VIP tables that happen more so in Miami, where we have like, oh, we have this influencer. They're going to take photos of our food. We got to make sure it's good. Blah 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 blah. To the people that return, undercooked meat, even though it's perfectly cooked. They ordered it medium rare, and it's a
Yeah.
perfect medium rare, and then they send it back.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what really bothers me is when people order medium rare plus. What the fuck is that?
What is that?
I don't know. Like, you want medium? Then order medium. But there's no such thing as medium rare plus. Come on,
That
man.
that doesn't exist. What is this, like a plus size model? That doesn't exist. A medium rare plus, is that the difference between medium rare and medium?
Yeah, that's what they want. They don't want medium rare, but they don't want medium, so they order medium rare plus, and it's a whole thing. Like, we tell them, just no, we don't do that.
Wow,
So stupid.
I didn't even know that even existed to begin with. That's a strange one. Wow.
Yeah.
I'd be upset with that too. Get your plus out of my face. I have a I have a philosophical thought that I've yet to have defined in my head, but I don't even know what to call him. Business partner, lover, friend, $200,000 in the hole, or 200,000 pounds in the hole, chef, and also seemingly harsh critic. He was talking about his wife. No, it's not his wife. His girl, whatever she is at the table,
Mistress, food
mistress,
critic, yeah.
who happens to be in the business and is not as pedantic as the person she's with. And she was saying that you you go by what's there in terms of critiquing something, and not what's not there. And I thought maybe that sounds better than it actually is. But like, if you got a piece of meat in front of you that it has no salt and pepper, you can evaluate it, but you're still evaluating on the fact that it has no salt and pepper, what's not there. So I think that I don't believe that to be true. I think it's somewhat true in the sense of, like, maybe in the smallest of margins you can make something better. You probably shouldn't evaluate it with that. But if you're missing like the basics of what you should be including in a meal, then I think that you should evaluate it with what is not there. For example, with salt and pepper.
I agree with that in all respects, but I do have to differ in my opinion that I think what she's alluding to is, to your example, let's just say a steak without salt and pepper, and that is a intention of the chef to have it like that, and not a mistake or an error by the chef. And if it's the intention to have it like that, then that's what you're judging it on. And you could say, I would prefer it with this, but I see what they're doing without it.
No, and that's why I had a little bit of a caveat in the sense that I think he was requesting a ramekin of what sauce? I can't even
I
remember,
can't
but
remember.
he
Yeah.
wanted to add like a very specific sauce to make it just right, and that
Yeah.
the quotation that she was providing in that moment was specific to that, which makes sense. But the philosophical part of me was like, I get that for sure, but also at the same time, if you were to take the aggressive stance of that, and not even say it's a mistake, just say you forgot salt and pepper, or say you meant to not have salt and pepper to make it more natural. It's like a modern art.
Yeah.
It's a modern art grill, which is
Um,
hilarious, but
do you
interesting.
do you have any allergens, any food allergies that you have to alert your waiter before dining?
No, and how frequently do people die in your restaurants or have issues? But I feel like, are there more allergens than there were 10 years ago, or like more people saying that they have an allergy than 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I read a whole article about the rise in peanut allergies over the years since like 1980 to now, and how children develop peanut allergies because they were denied peanuts at such an early age that they developed it,
Yep.
and it's a whole thing. Um, and it was this scare from a doctor or an allergist or whatever to say, don't give your little babies peanuts because they could die, and it just created this whole kind of epidemic of people with peanut allergies. And we
Yeah.
get it, like, yeah, every day there's people that come into the restaurant that let us know that they have an allergy. I mean, the gluten allergy is definitely something that's risen in the past 10 to 15 years, I want to say.
Hmm.
And I get it. It's a thing. But a lot of times it's more of a sensitivity than an actual EpiPen allergy.
Yeah, you should probably be eating less pasta, just generally speaking, and you're fat because of that. But anyway, celiac does exist. But with that said, if you've ever had a child, I would say that you have to kind of go through the ropes of, are they allergic? Are they not? And then you have to like expose them slowly but surely. And it's a weird, nerve-wracking moment. You're like, bag of peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Just make it rain on your daughter's head. And are you going to be okay? Kind of thing. And you do that with a variety of things just to see if,
Is that the way you test it out? Is that the proven method?
yeah,
Shower of peanuts?
that seemed to be the most rational, to just
Okay.
get a, those like 20 episodes ago where I exploded the
Yeah, the 4th of
confetti.
July. Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you were to take that and put peanut kernels with peanut shells and then just
Uh-huh.
twist it, and then I just did that above her head.
Okay.
And then she was fine. She doesn't have any sensitivity
So
to peanut.
cross that off the list.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
peanut sensitivity.
So, luckily it went okay. But yeah, I mean, on a very low scale, you have to do certain things not like that, but somewhat like that. But have you had any medical emergencies such as the ones seen on screen?
Nothing to that extent. I mean, allergies are scary,
Yeah.
and especially in managing them as a manager, kitchen, whatever. Like you're basically taking somebody's information and making sure that you're being very responsible with it. And we have a whole process of like how we deal with allergies and things like that. But yeah, it's a stressful thing, and I like how this movie. Um, it lays the groundwork. Like we kind of know, like once we get introduced to the allergy, something's going to happen in the movie with that allergy, right? It's
Yeah.
it's it,
Yeah,
it's
clearly.
basically a ticking time bomb, and
Yeah.
I like this kind of like likening it to a quote that Alfred Hitchcock uses about that, about like a ticking time bomb. Four people are sitting around a table talking about baseball, whatever you like. 5 minutes of it, very dull. Suddenly, a bomb goes off, blows the people to smithereens. What does the audience have? 10 seconds of shock. Now, take that same scene and tell the audience that there is a bomb under the table and that'll go off in 5 minutes. Now, the whole emotion of the audience is totally different because they've given them that information. Now, that conversation about baseball becomes very vital because you're making the audience work and they know what's going to happen. And that's the same kind of thing with this food allergy, right? We know that something's going to happen and we're just waiting for it to explode.
Yeah, I really like your example, primarily because it involves a bomb, and secondarily, the people of getting the bomb are baseball fans. So this is about as good of an analogy as somebody like myself could truly, deeply
Okay.
understand. So I appreciate that. I don't know if you meant to give me that one, but more like a soft ball.
Yeah, I threw you a softball there, huh? Yeah, you hate baseball. We get it. I should have edited that a little bit, but there's no edits in this podcast, so
I
not even with the words.
I have to. It's something that I thought would immediately come up when we had this conversation, and I asked this specific question, and I might as well go into my own details. I got married 10 years ago, just passed, and the day after I got married to my sweet, lovely wife, we went to a restaurant around the corner. Won't say the name, but it's in Midtown Manhattan, and I haven't been there since. But my wife refuses to go. We walked past it once, and she was like, like looking to the side. So anyway, 12, I think, or so of my closest of friends decided that after, we're going to have a brunch, a lively, a lively brunch. And at that time, I was very sleep deprived. I've been up for like 3 days, basically. Lots of friends, family in town, shooting the shit. And if you know me as you do, you know me. I like to my first and second, sometimes third drinks just to get them down, the gullet, and I like to get the party quickly started. And there's no reason to have something in your hand when it doesn't need to be. And so I poured myself, or I didn't pour myself. I ordered myself a Bloody Mary and a Brooklyn Lager.
It's a Brooklyn Lager, yeah.
And the Brooklyn Lager, to give you some backstory here, is a bit smidge colder than my typical love of Guinness. And Guinness is typically served at like 38, 39 degrees, and like 5 degrees cooler from the Brooklyn Lager front, which means restriction on your throat, a little more constrictive, like a boa. And so I, in about 2 gulps, finished the Boston Lager. As we just politely sit down, we order drinks. I ordered two, of course. They come, gulp, gulp. Nobody's ordered anything pretty much else outside of that. I don't even think we had appetizers then. And I was like, that little bubble in your chest, when you drink too much water or too quickly, you get a little bubble. And then my vision started getting like weird. Looked at my friend Billy and I was like, man, you ever had that bubble in your chest? Boom! Smack on the table. My eyes are open and I'm looking directly at my wife, allegedly, because I don't recall this. And she's screaming bloody murder. And I wake up on the ground with somebody's finger in my mouth, hilariously enough. And the whole restaurant's looking at me, staring, and I'm like, what? What just happened? That was kind of weird. And then I tried to play it off. I started sweating
You
profusely.
were sweating profusely, yeah.
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 And then I sat down and I was like, oh, I feel okay. I think. Yeah, I'm all right. And then everyone's like, what is happening? And then our friend Milt, who is a character, pretty much doesn't take anything seriously, is on the phone with 911 speaking in very serious tone. And I was like, if Milt is serious, I should be serious. I was like, I'm missing something
Uh,
clearly when I was passed
yeah.
out. And then a nurse comes over and is like, I think your blood sugar's a little low. Have some orange juice. And then I chugged the orange juice. Looking back, it
So
was a
dumb.
very bad move. But anyway, people, if you chug too quickly, you constrict what's called your vagus nerve. And if you do that, your blood pressure will plummet and you will pass out. I'm no doctor. This is what's been relayed to me. This is inaccurate. Please just ridicule me in the comments. I'm going to make a t-shirt out of it and sell it in the future, please. But that was, probably, have you ever had a moment like that where person chugged too quickly, passed out, and the whole bar just was like, what's going on over there? Like everyone was stood up and wanting to see what would happen.
That was one of the most scariest things I've ever witnessed, because I was sitting right across the table from you as well, and your head makes a very loud thump, um, and I had no idea what was going on. And you were, yeah, when you got up, you were sweating profusely. And you kind of shook it off, like, yeah, you were
Yeah.
ready to get another round. But I'm glad you gauged the seriousness of Milt and took some precautions there, because yeah, that was
Yeah, there were a couple people crying, and then Milt was serious. The crying I could understand, but then the Milt being serious was like, this must be really serious.
yeah.
Like I was like, okay, if he is that serious and he's like shook up on with like 911, I was like, man, that must have been really fucked up. But yeah, I remember saying when I woke up, I was like, oh, I don't mean to like ruin the party, and everyone's like, it's been ruined. Like there's just nothing you could do now. And I remember even after people were texting me, were like, the whole day it was just like a weird feeling, like you're dead.
Yeah.
Milt, like a year later, or like soon after that, was like, I thought that's how you would go. like, like it just seemed like natural, like you would go out this way, which is I guess scarier. But nonetheless, I feel like I had to share that.
I've
More
yeah,
time
I've
to do
definitely
so.
had I've had to call the ambulance a number of times for different things for guests, passing out at the bar, falling. I had to call an ambulance for one of my dishwashers who came in, and he was I think still tripping off of acid,
Oh my.
and he was freaking out. And he's like, "Yeah, this girl gave me acid at 2 a.m. and I still feel really weird." Um, that was the last day he worked there. Um, but yeah, it's it's inevitable, you know.
I have to ask, how prevalent is cocaine use in restaurants? Not for your partaking, but what you have seen.
I mean, I guess it's in the industry is what I'm trying to say. But I think the nature of restaurants and people working with alcohol and the kind of free nature of it and the stressful nature of it leads itself for people to find outlets for different things. And especially for people that are coming in hungover, partying too much, maybe that's a cure for some of that because you have to be awake and ready for service. But yeah, I think it's definitely prevalent. And I like how they portrayed it here, like especially like rewatching this movie. Like there's an instance where Chef Andy leaves the kitchen and we don't follow him, and we see what's going on with the other staff members and stuff like that, and then he comes back and he's kind of like
Yeah,
with
yeah.
his nose, but you don't know that he's doing it until the end when you see it kind of on the desk in the office. And I thought that was really just these small little details in this movie that really make it.
Yeah, that was cool. I just think that if you're like cocaine is just going to make a person think that they're so much better and everything they do is so much better than it objectively typically is. So like anything you're making and your taste buds, like I don't know, it's just going to be a skew. So you're going to think you're like the shit, but I could see why you would do it. It'll pick me up, especially if you've been out the whole night and have been on acid. That's wild, so crazy. Um, but anyway, I liked. I don't know, these two movies. They're just weird. Single shot movies are so strange to me. I don't really know how to define them. I don't
Yeah.
really know how to rate them. They both get like normal average ratings, I guess, to some extent, but like nothing high, nothing low. I can't give I can't give it's like the same inverse. I can't give them something high. I can't give them something low. Especially I can't give a low rating, just because of the totality of what's required from an acting perspective, production perspective, layout, like everything included in a single shot film. It's like deservedly somewhat of a good review, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean we can get into ratings here soon. Um, I like movies that have have a story. Um, and although I appreciate what they did with the Russian Ark and the grandiose nature behind it and how beautiful it is as a film, um, I will probably never revisit it.
Yeah.
Um, but and I mean, Boiling Point is kind of tugging on all of my heartstrings for just me relating to everything that's going on because I've spent the past 20 years working in these kind of environments and different levels and dealing with these different people, and it's kind of like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme when he's sitting on the couch in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's like, "Yep, that's me. That's
Yeah.
me."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I relate to it so much. So I definitely have to lean a little bit harder to that. Plus, next time we're in London, whenever that may be, I have to do this. We have to go to the restaurant where they filmed it because it's still there. It's open, and that's one of the bucket list things that I want to do when we're in London.
Do you think he died at the end?
I mean, he said he was going to go into rehab as he was doing all of this stuff, but this is. I hope he doesn't. I hope he didn't. And he probably did, but I hope he didn't.
It's funny, single shot movies, as I said at the very beginning, are fun. I like to watch them once. And then to be honest, I just don't want everyone I'd ever want to watch them again. And that is certainly to both films. I just thought that Russian Ark was shot so beautifully, and maybe it didn't have a story, but I think it has a story that's maybe a little more like the new Joker, in that you need to be applying some
Have you
martial
seen
art.
it?
No, you need to be applying some secondary, tertiary like ideology of
I
there
kind of want to
being.
see it because everybody just hated on it so much, but I don't know. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, but I would prefer to never have to do single shot movies again. But I like the. It was a fun week, short.
Yeah. What are your ratings for these two movies?
3.5 for each. I don't know
Okay.
how to rate. I don't know how to rate them. To be fair, like I just don't
Three.
know. I don't know. 3.5. I
That's
don't.
fair.
I just like. There's never gonna yield. There's never gonna come to a point where each any of the movies to me were extremely well acted. I think you have to be on an even keel. I think the just Russian Ark did some stuff that was better, but I think Boiling Point also did stuff that was much better as well. I think the story in particular and the acting was better,
Acting. Yeah.
but the cinematography was incredible in Russian Ark. But I don't know, I just couldn't give them each 4 stars.
Do you appreciate uh, long long takes in just traditional films like the fight scene in Old Boy and things like that? Like, is that kind of more of your up your alley?
Tarkovsky,
Yeah, there you go.
one of my favorite directors of all time. He has in Stalker this 7-minute scene. He also has pretty much a 20-minute scene um, in multiples of his movies. Now I think about it, but of a burning house, that is, it's some of the best like cinema to me and cinematography to me, and I love it. But I wouldn't say I like it. There gets a point where I think around 10 minutes where it's like you just gotta either go all in, or I think you go all in, it becomes a single shot. But I think 10 minutes is like the max. But yeah, those 2-minute fight scenes in the hallway of Old Boy, some of my favorite stuff. I do very much like long shots. Probably one
Yeah,
of my favorite things in film.
and especially when it serves like the actual movie and it gives the movie this kind of jolt of like energy, or a solemnness, whatever it is, it serves the movie very well. And yeah, the fight scene in Old Boy, the opening scene in Touch of Evil, the opening scene in Halloween, even, like, it lends itself to the story and the theme of what they're trying to do in the movie.
So what do you got for your ratings?
I
Three and
gave
a half
Boiling Point four.
glasses, I should say.
Yeah, I gave Boiling Point 4.5 glasses, um, and I gave Russian Ark 3 glasses.
I
Um,
see you mixed and mashed your 4.5 and 3. You had Russian Ark on the spreadsheet as 4.5. I changed it for you.
oh, thank you.
I
Thank you.
switched it.
What do we what do we got for? I mean, if we're doing this in continuity, who
Yeah,
knows what we're
we've
gonna
mixed and mashed
publish?
primarily because of a variety of things, but definitely Over the Hill films. I think are going to be next. But with that being said, are we going to be doing that in person, Steven? Are we going to wait on that? What are we going to do?
We could do that in person. Yeah. You're already over the hill.
I am.
I'm I'm cresting the hill right now as we speak.
Would you like to do and record? So what's going to be next week? Why don't we just do Over the Hill films next week with another round versus Lethal Weapon 2? Because I've already started another round, by the way.
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah. I had to explain to my wife, and she was like, "Why? What's so over the hill about Lethal Weapon 2?" And I was like, "You never heard this quote?" And she had never heard that. And I was like, "How is it? Have you seen the movie? Like it's a really big thing. Danny Glover, it's like a really big thing. It's supposed to be like,
It's
first of all,
as
like 98 and he's like 30, which is hilarious. But nonetheless, um, we've got a nice 4 podcast episodes coming. Over the Hill and Thanksgiving. And then the next 2 I'm going to keep for us, especially the third, which I'm excited about.
And we got For You coming up, which is
Yeah. The For You,
interesting.
every 9 episodes. This should be an interesting one. It's a For You that I haven't seen, of course, and you haven't seen, of course, but 2 of which I think we each of us know about. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
until
Well,
next week,
cool.
people.
And we keep hyping this website, and it's coming.
We have
It's tangible.
a final review of it, and yours truly has to write a few items, but it's coming. Yeah, it'll be here. Just have some goddamn patience, people.
They're clamoring for it, man. I just keep getting messages. Like, when's the
Yeah.
website going to?
Yes.
What are we doing? What's going on?
6 people, 2 of which are us, and our 4 are like family.
It's hard to juggle. All right, till next week.
Goodbye.